Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to introduce the idea of energy. By the end of the video, you should be able to define energy as the ability to do work. You should be able to say that work is the transformation of energy from one type to another. You should be able to recognize that energy is conserved. And you should be able to see that energy is measured in joules. Now, when we look at the world around us, we see that there are changes happening everywhere we look at all times. Cars move down the freeway during peak hour. Fireworks light up the night sky on Australia Day. Or perhaps you go home this evening and you see that the raw materials are being transformed into a delicious meal. All of these changes are possible because of energy. All of the changes that we see happening in the world around us can happen because of energy. So what is energy? Energy makes all change possible. And these changes that we're talking about, we've got a word for those. We call them work. Work is to change the world around us, to transform energy from one type to another, from one place to another. This is to do work. Energy makes this work possible. Energy is the ability to do work. This is our definition of energy. Energy is the ability to do work. And work is the consumption of energy, the transformation of energy, the changing of the world. An example, here we see a crane lifting a container up onto a platform. So the crane is changing the world. The container goes from the ground to the top of the platform. Now, in moving to the top of the platform, the container is given a special type of energy called gravitational potential energy. This didn't just come out of nowhere. This is possible because of the chemical potential energy stored in the crane's fuel. So the crane does the work. The energy required to do the work comes from the fuel inside the crane. Here we see a sprinter exploding out of her blocks at the start of a race. The change that's happening is she's going from being stationary to moving very fast. This change is possible because of the energy she received from the food that she ate for breakfast. Chemical potential energy inside of her breakfast, inside of her body, becomes kinetic energy as she explodes down the track, launches down the track. These last two examples have helped us to see that energy comes in many different forms. Now, I've got a lot of these different types of energy listed in two columns. A column on the left and a column on the right. You'll notice that the energy on the right, the energy in the right-hand column have all got the word potential in them. There's gravitational potential energy, elastic potential energy, chemical potential energy, nuclear potential energy. These are all different types of energy. They all make change possible. The word potential helps us to remember that they might potentially do something at any point. These energies in the right-hand column are storage energies. In theory, you could put any one of them up on a shelf and save it for later. The energies in the left-hand column, kinetic energy, light energy, sound energy, heat energy, and electricity, these are all energy forms which move from place to place. So we think of them as movement energy. So we have movement energy and we have storage energy. Energy comes in many different forms. Energy is measured in joules. The joule is named after James Prescott Joule. But a joule is not very much. I'm sure you could all raise your hand and estimate how much a metre is, but what is a joule? If you raise a 1 kilogram weight by 10 centimetres, you'll have done 1 joule of work. So as you can see, a joule is not very much. If we put this into perspective, this morning you might have had muesli for breakfast. 100 grams of muesli could supply your body with almost 1600 kilojoules of energy. That's 1,600,000 joules of energy. In theory, if your body was perfectly efficient, it could raise that 1 kilogram weight by 10 centimeters 1,600,000 times. Now, of course, our bodies don't actually work that way, but it does put it into perspective. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is that energy is conserved. We see here a magician magically creating energy out of his hands. But in reality, the world doesn't work like this. Energy cannot be created or destroyed magically. Energy can be moved from one place to another. Here we see high voltage transmission lines moving electric energy from our power plants to our homes. Energy can be passed from one thing to another. Here the soccer player is about to pass the kinetic energy from his boot to the soccer ball. Energy can be transformed from one type into another. Here we see that the chemical potential energy inside the wood is being transformed into heat and light energy. So, in summary, energy is the ability to do work. This is our definition for energy. Work is the consumption of energy. Work is what we do when we use energy to change the world around us. Energy is conserved. It cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. We measure energy in joules.